So this is a video on why and how I quit drinking. Basically, I'll go over what it was like, what the turning point was, and how it is now. Basically, I'm just sharing my story, and I'm in no way, telling anybody what they should or shouldn't do. I'm just letting you know what happened to me. So how it was. So really only the last 2 years of my drinking career were really the ones that I'm going to focus on, because those are the last few years that were the worst. Especially in the last year of drinking, in the last few months of drinking, because obviously it got worse and worse and worse with each passing month. I had a lot of fun with friends and out partying and going to shows and things like that, and drinking every weekend, things like that, but that wasn't the issue. That wasn't the problem. Even drinking every weekend, that wasn't necessarily a problem at all. And going out and socializing, that wasn't the issue. So the reasons why I was drinking were actually the problem. I felt like I wasn't worthy when I was sober. I felt like I wasn't interesting. I didn't have any valuable things about me when I was sober. I felt like being sober was lame, really. When I was drinking, I felt like I was finally able to be myself because my social anxiety was gone. I felt like really the only way to really bond with people was when we were both drunk. And I felt like drinking, of course, was the perfect escape. That's what they say. But really, I did feel that way, that I was finally able to breathe again when I was drinking. So that would be an escape from the realities of being super poor, because I was, the realities of really bad relationships I was in, or the realities of just normal relationships I was in, because they were usually pretty chaotic anyway, at least in some parts. It was an escape of having a lack of self-esteem, and it was an escape from having basically unstable living conditions a lot of the time. I had to have a drink before I did basically anything. Before I had a bath, I would have to have a drink. Before I created art, I had to, because I felt like it increased my creativity. Before I made an important phone call, I would have to. Before I went to any kind of social gathering, big or small. And of course, before I went to a party. So of course there'd always be pre-drinking involved, drinking on the bus on the way there, and then a lot of the times if I wasn't with friends, it would just end up being me, chugging a bottle of wine in an alleyway before I walked into a house party. And why would I do that? Because I felt like the only way people liked me is if I were free. Basically, that's how I saw it, which would be living without social anxiety. And I felt like that's the only time really when I was loud and energetic and funny and really free. Again, that's what it felt like for me. And yeah, I mean, that's how I felt people would like me, but still a lot of people still didn't really like me anyway. Not a lot, but a few people still didn't like me, which I don't know why at the time, because I didn't really care. So the next morning, and really the whole day after drinking, I would have crippling anxiety, where I would be sweating. I'd feel sick, of course. I'd feel really cloudy and out of it, and I wasn't able to think right. And a lot of the times I felt like I was actually going crazy, because the anxiety got so bad where, I'd have crazy thoughts, or sometimes if I closed my eyes when I was in the midst of a panic attack, I'd see scary faces and things like that, and it was overwhelming at times. I didn't think anything would get rid of it. Other than the anxiety all the time, there was the weekly breakdowns, emotional breakdowns, over relationship problems or life problems, over feeling inadequate, over feeling like I didn't do anything with my life, and that's incredibly overwhelming when you're older, and it feels like you failed life, basically. So that contributed to the meltdowns that I would have often. I lost a few friends along the way, which was very hard and still is hard to this day when I think about it sometimes. There was many times too where I would, I'd be out, I'd have the awesome time, best night of my life, and then in an instant I would switch and I would need to get out of there. I would need to fight something or fight somebody, do something. So there was constant switches like that, where I would get very intense, overwhelming surges of overwhelming intensity that came out of nowhere, seemingly, so that was really hard to deal with. So I was also starting to have, suicidal thoughts and self-hatred things, and those thoughts and feelings would come out in different ways. And of course, they were getting worse and worse and worse each time I drank. And I knew in the back of my head that something soon was about to happen, something really bad. So the turning point, March 1st, 2014 was the last night that I drank. I went out with one of my best friends. We went out, had an awesome time. We went to lots of different bars, and it was really fun. So I'm glad, looking back now, I can remember the last time I got drunk, I had a lot of fun. So that was good, but there came a point in the night where that switch happened again in my head, and I had to get out of there. I had to break something, had to break someone, had to do something. I was feeling those intense feelings again. So that night, between the hours of 3 and 6 a.m. on that Saturday night, I had the worst breakdown that I had ever had at that moment, where the cops ended up being called, and I was taken to the hospital. So then the next morning, when I woke up in the afternoon, I was already 2 or 3 hours late for work, and I had that overwhelming feeling of dread again, but this time it was different. I called my mom. I can't remember why or what I said or anything like that, but she said that I sounded different, and I knew that I sounded different. I felt like I was not disassociating. I felt like I had just had a massive mental breakdown the night before, so of course I felt a little out of sorts. And that's basically when I knew that something had to happen or I was going to die. Pretty much right away, I knew I had to surround myself with a strong support system, so that following Monday, I went to AA. I had nowhere else to go. I needed to go somewhere where I was surrounded by like-minded people who understood what was going on with me at the moment, so I'm really glad that was there for me. I also, I went to my doctor, and I had her refer me to be involved with cognitive behavioral therapy. It was group sessions, so I did that. That helped with depression and anxiety. I also ended up getting a counselor through mental health and addiction services. So and that was weekly meetings where she would, it would be like one-on-one therapist sessions basically, where she would talk about, looking out for relapse and basically how to live life and things like that. I also got a sponsor, and I met with her regularly to talk about, how to start mending my mind and things like that, and get back to feeling good again. And I could call her or text her whenever I wanted, which was a huge help. Also my boyfriend too, and my mom and my close friends and family, they were very good, and still are, a very good support system. So without that support system that I set up for myself, I don't know I don't know what would have happened. Well, I know what would have happened. It wouldn't have been good. So I needed that support system in place, so I made sure that I had it to make sure that my chances of success were the highest they could be. So I also stopped going out, which was really hard because I missed my friends a lot, and I missed going to live shows a lot, but I knew that I had to stay away from anything that could tempt me. And I knew that was a very real thing that could happen because I was still really weak. I also knew I had to get my life back together, so I ended up meeting with an employment counselor, and we discussed my options for going back to school. I did end up going back to school. I got funding and things like that, which changed my life. So then I had something new to focus on, which was school. So that helped in the, I failed my life department, so that helped a lot to feel like I was finally doing something and worth something. I did go easy on myself through the detoxing process and through the process of feeling a lot of things emotionally and physically, so I knew that it was going to be a process, so I was easier on myself and it wasn't too hard on myself when I had bad days, and I had bad days, I'll tell you what. I also researched a lot, which helped a lot in anticipating what was coming One of the things I found very helpful to understand was post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And that is where you have, in early recovery, it happens, you would have memory problems, you'd have an inability to think clearly, you get really foggy, you'd have emotional overreactions or underreactions, sleep disturbances, that's a big one, physical coordination problems, motor skills are a little off at times, you'd have stress sensitivity, or you would have a hard time dealing with stress, or a hard time seeing that you're under stress. Anxiety is a big one too, and low enthusiasm and low energy is also something that can happen in early recovery. So understanding what post-acute withdrawal syndrome was helped in knowing that whatever I was feeling at the time was completely normal and that it was only temporary. So look into that if that seems like something you should look into if you're in early recovery. So how it is now. So I got sober on March 2nd, 2014. That's my official sobriety date. And I also quit smoking 6 months into recovery. I'll make another video on how I did that. That was crazy. So the first year was really hard, of course. I missed my friends a lot. I felt like I broke up with the love of my life, which was alcohol. I felt like I broke up with my best friend, the love of my life, the one thing that made me feel better, except for the end, it made me feel horrible. So basically I grieved a lot for that, and I missed my old life. Well, I missed the good parts. So that was really hard to go through all the grieving process with that. And of course on major holidays like Halloween, which is big for me, on my birthday, which is a week after Halloween, New Year's Eve, so times like that, it was really hard, where I would normally be out drinking, but of course I wasn't, so it was really hard to go through understanding what to do with myself then, and understanding that I can't go out to parties with a lot of friends. Sometimes I can, but in early sobriety I couldn't, because I'd be surrounded by everything that I wish I could do, but I couldn't. I would be surrounded by my old life, and it was really hard sometimes, because I would be super jealous that I couldn't do that anymore, and I would start to get mad and inside, and I'd have to leave because it would just be too overwhelming. I'd just feel it just wasn't good. I mean, I'm able to now go out and things like that every once in a while, and that's totally fine. I'm stronger now. But in early recovery, it was incredibly difficult in the first year. So what helped was keeping up with recovery work, of course, and that was the key in getting better emotionally, mentally, and physically. With physically, you know, I changed my diet as best I could. I started taking vitamins and other supplements like that, because who knew alcoholism wreaked havoc on your body, like in ways you don't even realize. So also in early recovery, or part of recovery, is to take a really good look at your life and what you did, all the things you destroyed, all the people you hurt, all the fucked up things you did. You have to learn how to be suddenly very self-aware, and uncover all the darkness that you had been hiding. That's truly the only way to heal, is when you really look at your life objectively and realistically. So I rebuilt my self-esteem. I rebuilt my sense of self. I was, and still am, the happiest I've ever been. And my anxiety actually disappeared, which is unbelievable to me. I didn't think it was possible, because it was so bad for years, since I was 14 really. And I healed a lot of the relationships that I had ruined in the past, which was also huge for me. So my advice to anybody who wants the advice on how to go through all this stuff, one, Remember that you don't have to be drunk every day and, living in a gutter to be an alcoholic. Only you know when you are. Deep set down inside that you are, and if it's negatively affecting your life, then you got to do something, because it does only get worse. So do your research too, is another one. Understand that you are capable of quitting, and you are worthy of recovery. It is incredibly difficult. I know that, but it is 100% worth it. You have no idea how amazing life is once you're rid of all the poison in your mind and body. You have no idea how amazing life can be once you're finally free. Another thing I didn't realize was that I had a lot of guilt, and I didn't know that was weighing down on me so hard. So that's another thing. Know that the guilt and the shame will go away. It's shocking, but it actually will. Another thing is most people will understand and will have your back, but some other people won't, and that is okay. Some people, if you try to reach out to them, and try to make amends for the things that you've done in the past, they don't want to hear it. They just assume the worst of you because all they remember is how you used to be. So you can't push it. If people don't want to hear any of it, that has nothing to do with you. Leave it alone. You have to respect that if people don't want to be part of your life anymore. And that's okay, because that can and probably will happen. You'll also probably fall out of touch with people, which is totally okay also. And that doesn't mean that they were never your friend and they're not your real friend, because they were your friend during one era of your life. And now that you're in a new era, they just might not necessarily come along with you. That doesn't mean that they never cared about you or anything like that. It's just part of the transition. And you just have to be okay with that. A lot of people still do wish you well. They're just in a different part of their life, just as you're in a different part of your life. Doesn't mean anything bad. You'll miss them dearly, of course you will, but there's nothing really that negative about it, because it's not coming from a place of disrespect or anger. If you're still struggling, there is a very good chance that you can't even really comprehend sobriety. I know I didn't, and you can't think straight, and you can't even trust your own thoughts sometimes, because we're still so heavily involved in the addiction and the struggle. So in times like that, you just have to trust your gut and trust your close friends around you. If they're saying that there's something up with you, that if you have a problem, then that's when you have to just trust. Don't try to do it alone, because a lot of the times the detox process, it can be life-threatening, so you need medical professionals there to help you through it. Build a support system, of course, I already said that. And of course, remember what they say, one day at a time, which is incredibly true. But a lot of the times it's 1 minute at a time or 1 second at a time. And understand that is real, but it does get better. As I already said, week to week, month to month, it does get better. And even now, and it's been 2 years, I'll still have moments every once in a while where it is 1 minute at a time. But the payoff far outweigh the struggle. You have to remember to be patient with yourself and don't push yourself, and understand that there's a good chance you won't feel comfortable doing a lot of the things that you thought that you would be. A lot of things will be a surprise to you, and that's okay. Everything is a learning process, really. When you do a life 180, like quitting something like drinking or anything else, your entire life is affected. So you have to be easy on yourself and be patient and understand it is a process. And lastly, life does get better. It is possible for life to get better. And it's so worth it. I thought I was happy before. I really wasn't. I'm actually happy now. I have peace and calmness inside now. I don't feel like my life is spiraling downhill. I don't feel like a piece of shit anymore. Because I'm not. I truly am happy, and you know, I did all the things that I had to do to turn my life around. And it is possible for you too. No matter how old you are, no matter how deep in this you are, it is possible. You just have to do it and understand it. It's a process, and understand that it does take time to completely change your life around, but it is possible. So thank you for watching. Of course, you can leave comments below if you want to. I don't want it, that sounds cheap. So thank you for watching. If you're going through some stuff, you know, you should reach out to any local organizations you have there that can help you. I did that, and I am so thankful I did. So no matter where you live, look that shit up, Google it, do as much research as you can, because for me, it took many months of doing small little bits of research here and there until it finally hit me that I really did need to change, and it really hit me that I do need outside support. So do that, look that shit up in your area, get the help that you need. And if you don't have an alcohol problem or addiction problem, then thanks for watching anyway. I hope you learned something. I hope it was somewhat entertaining. It was definitely real as I could possibly friggin' get. That's it. That's my story. That's it. I'm sharing it to everybody. So again, thanks for watching. And yeah, I'll see y'all on my next video.